In the vast, endless galaxy, there were many powerful species. Some were known for their strength, some for their intelligence, and others for their speed. But among them all, one species stood out above the rest. They were the apex predators that ruled with an iron grip, feared by every other life form. Their name alone sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. These predators were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were tall, strong, and incredibly fast. Their bodies were covered in thick scales, making them nearly impossible to harm. They had sharp claws, teeth that could tear through metal, and eyes that seemed to pierce the very soul of anyone who looked into them. The predators had no weakness. Their instincts were unmatched, and their ability to hunt was perfected over centuries. For a long time, the predators had been the undisputed rulers of the galaxy. No species dared to challenge them. They had conquered planet after planet, leaving destruction in their wake. Entire civilizations were wiped out, their cities reduced to rubble, and their people either enslaved or exterminated. The predators were unstoppable. Their reign seemed eternal. The predators had a brutal warrior culture. They believed only the strongest should survive, and they followed the law of the jungle. Survival was the ultimate goal, and the strongest always ruled. Those who proved their worth in battle earned respect, and those who failed were cast aside or destroyed. This harsh lifestyle had made them the most feared species in the universe. They believed no one could challenge their power, but the predators did not realize that their reign was about to be challenged. They thought they were invincible. They had never encountered a species strong enough to even stand against them. To them, the idea of defeat was unimaginable. They thought that their strength would ensure their dominance forever. That was until the humans arrived. At first, the predators dismissed humanity as just another weak species, no different from the countless others they had encountered. The humans were smaller, fragile, and not nearly as advanced in terms of physical strength. Their technology was primitive compared to the predators, and their ships were slow and easy to destroy. The predators were sure that humans posed no real threat. However, there was something the predators didn't understand about humans. It wasn't their physical strength or their advanced weapons that made them dangerous. It was their will. Humans had something that no other species had: a burning desire to survive and a willingness to fight for it, no matter the odds. The predators could not see this, and that was their first mistake. The humans had been exploring the galaxy, looking for new worlds to inhabit. They were curious, intelligent, and always seeking to learn more. But their journey brought them into the path of the predators. It started with a simple encounter: humans on a small, peaceful planet they had colonized. The predators saw this as an easy target and descended upon the planet with their usual fury. At first, the humans were no match for the predators. They had no idea what they were up against. The first few battles were a disaster. The humans fought back, but they were clearly outclassed. The predators tore through their defenses and wiped out entire cities. The humans were on the brink of destruction, and many thought it was only a matter of time before the predators finished them off completely. But something strange happened. Instead of breaking, the humans fought harder. They learned from their mistakes and adapted. They used their limited technology in creative ways, turning the predators' strengths against them. They set traps, used guerrilla tactics, and slowly began to push back. It was clear the predators were not used to this kind of resistance. They were used to overwhelming their enemies with brute force. But the humans had something else: strategy, intelligence, and a deep desire to survive. As the humans began to fight back, the predators started to realize something terrifying. They were not invincible. For the first time in their long reign, they were being challenged. They couldn't understand it. How could these small, fragile beings stand up to them? How could they fight so fiercely against an enemy that had wiped out entire species with ease? The predators tried to shake off their confusion and regroup. They sent larger armies and stronger ships to crush the human resistance. But each time they did, the humans adapted. They used their intelligence to outthink the predators, finding new ways to strike and disrupt their forces. The predators were slowly beginning to lose control. The once feared apex predators, who had ruled over the galaxy with fear and might, were now being pushed back by a species they had dismissed as weak. It was in these moments of doubt that the predators began to fear for the first time. They realized they had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated the humans. They had thought they were invincible, but the humans had proven them wrong. And as the battles continued, the predators knew one thing for sure: their reign was coming to an end. The rise of the apex predators had been swift and unstoppable, but now they faced an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. And this enemy, this small, seemingly weak species, would soon show them what it truly meant to fight for survival. The first encounter between the humans and the apex predators was far from what either side had expected. The humans had been traveling through space, exploring new worlds and expanding their reach, when they accidentally stumbled upon a planet known to be a stronghold of the apex predators. The predators, who were used to having the galaxy's vastness all to themselves, saw the humans as nothing more than a minor nuisance. They were certain that this encounter would end the same way as all others, swiftly and without effort. At first, the humans had no idea what they were walking into. Their ship, a small research vessel, was unarmed and designed for peaceful exploration. It wasn't equipped to fight off an army of terrifyingly strong predators. The humans were unaware that they were heading into enemy territory, as the predators had made sure their presence remained hidden, moving silently through the galaxy. But when the ship's sensors picked up unusual readings, it was already too late. The predators struck first. A massive, dark shadow loomed over the human ship as it entered the atmosphere of the predator-controlled planet. The humans had no time to react, as their ship was suddenly under attack by the predator's superior forces. The attackers were swift and brutal, their massive warships darting through the air, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. The humans had no idea how to defend themselves. They tried to launch evasive maneuvers, but their ship was far too slow. The predators' firepower was overwhelming. For the humans, it was like being caught in a nightmare. They couldn't even understand why they were being attacked. But for the predators, this was just another day. They attacked without hesitation, confident that they would crush the humans with ease. They believed the humans would bow down to their superior strength, just as every other species had before them. But then, something unexpected happened. In the chaos of the attack, one of the human pilots, Captain Ryan, made a decision that would change the course of history. Rather than surrendering or running away, he ordered his crew to fight back. They weren't sure if they could win, but they knew they couldn't simply let the predators destroy them without putting up a fight. They knew they had something the predators didn't expect: the will to survive. Captain Ryan quickly gave orders to use every resource at their disposal. The crew turned their small, unarmed ship into a makeshift warship. They activated every weapon they could, even those that weren't designed for combat. The human ship wasn't built to fight, but they would use it to their advantage. The crew used their limited technology in creative ways, setting up energy shields, launching decoy probes, and even using the planet's atmosphere to mask their movements. The predators, stunned by the humans' unexpected resistance, hesitated for a moment. They couldn't understand why the humans weren't panicking, why they weren't begging for mercy. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. The predators were used to quick victories, to crushing their enemies before they could even think of fighting back. But the humans weren't afraid. They were fighting back with everything they had. In the heart of the battle, Captain Ryan managed to lock on to one of the Predator's warships, a massive craft that was heavily armored and seemingly impenetrable. The human ship wasn't built to withstand the Predator's firepower, but they had a secret weapon, their determination. The captain made a daring decision, guiding the human ship directly into the Predator's warship's path. It was a suicide mission, but Captain Ryan believed it might be their only chance. As the human ship charged forward, the Predator warship fired relentlessly, but just before impact, the humans unleashed their final weapon, a powerful, experimental energy blast, a last-ditch effort to disable the Predator's shields. The blast struck the Predator ship's weak point, causing a massive explosion. The Predator warship was severely damaged, and the humans managed to escape the blast by barely a fraction of a second. The humans had done the impossible. They had struck a blow against the apex predators. The battle wasn't over, but this small victory marked the beginning of a change that the predators could never have imagined. After the battle, the predators were left in a state of shock. Their once unbeatable forces had been challenged by a tiny, seemingly insignificant species. For the first time in their lives, they realized that maybe they weren't as invincible as they had thought. This was just the beginning. The humans weren't going to surrender quietly. They were going to fight back, and they were going to use every ounce of their resourcefulness, their intelligence, and their spirit to do it. The humans, though battered and bruised, had proven that they were not to be underestimated. They had shown the predators that no matter how strong or mighty you are, you could always be challenged. The predators might have been apex predators for centuries, but they had never faced an enemy quite like this. And as the humans prepared for the battles ahead, they knew one thing for sure: this was only the beginning. They were going to keep fighting. And with every victory, the Predator's dominance over the galaxy was slowly slipping away. The first battle had been a shock, but it was only a small victory in a much larger war. The apex predators, now aware that humans weren't as weak as they had once believed, began to change their tactics. They had underestimated the humans' adaptability, their drive to survive, and their ability to learn from every encounter. But now, with their initial shock fading, the predators prepared to bring down everything they had on the humans. The humans, on the other hand, were determined not to back down. They were bruised, their ships damaged, but their spirits were unbroken. Captain Ryan and his crew knew that they couldn't fight the predators with brute force alone. The predators were too strong, too well equipped, but they had something the predators didn't: the ability to think outside the box, to adapt, and to fight smarter, not harder. Captain Ryan convened a meeting with his top officers to discuss their next move. They knew the predators would come after them with everything they had, so they needed a plan. They couldn't just engage in another head-on battle. They had to outsmart the predators. "We need to hit them where it hurts," Captain Ryan said, his voice steady. We can't match their firepower, but we don't have to. We have our brains. Let's use them. They began to put their plan into motion. The humans knew the predator's strengths, but now it was time to exploit their weaknesses. The predators were powerful, but they were also arrogant. They relied too heavily on their size, their strength, and their numbers. They underestimated the humans' ability to adapt quickly and use guerrilla tactics. The humans knew that a direct confrontation would lead to disaster, but a series of small, precise strikes could wear down the predator's confidence and disrupt their strategy. Over the next few weeks, the humans launched a series of surprise attacks on predator supply lines. They targeted their weapon depots, their communication systems, and their vulnerable ships. Each attack was carefully planned, executed swiftly, and then the humans disappeared into the vastness of space before the predators could retaliate. The predators, once so confident, found themselves constantly on the defensive. Each time the predators thought they had the humans cornered, the humans slipped away, leaving nothing behind but destruction. The predator warships, once seen as unstoppable forces, now had to deal with constant sabotage. Their forces were beginning to lose morale. For the first time in their long reign, the predators realized they were no longer the hunters, they were the hunted. One day, the humans managed to capture an important predator commander during a daring raid. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The humans now had valuable intelligence. The predator commander, though fiercely loyal to his species, was no match for the humans' interrogators. Under pressure, he revealed a crucial piece of information: the location of the predator's central command hub, a place where they coordinated all their operations. Captain Ryan knew that this was the turning point. If the humans could strike at the heart of the predator's operation, they could cripple the entire species. But the risk was enormous. If they failed, the predators would retaliate with full force, and the humans might not survive. But it was a risk they had to take. There was no going back now. With the coordinates of the command hub in hand, the humans set their plan in motion. They gathered a small but highly skilled team of soldiers, engineers, and strategists, preparing for the most dangerous mission of their lives. They had to infiltrate the heart of the Predator Empire, bypass their heavily guarded defenses, and destroy the central command system that controlled their entire military dot. As the team boarded their ships, ready for the mission, there was an air of tension among them. No one spoke much. They all knew what was at stake. This wasn't just a battle for survival anymore. This was a fight for their future, and the future of every human being in the galaxy. The mission began under the cover of darkness. The humans used their small, agile ships to avoid the Predator's radar systems. They moved silently through space, cutting through asteroid fields and using the planet's gravity to mask their movements. The Predators, unaware of the human plan, continued their search for the attackers who had been causing them so much trouble. The closer they got to the central command hub, the more dangerous it became. The Predators had set up a network of patrols, traps, and automated defenses, but the humans were prepared. They hacked into the Predators' security systems, disabling the traps and creating distractions. They snuck past the patrols and crept closer to their target. When they finally reached the command hub, the team was in position. But the hardest part was yet to come. The hub was heavily fortified, and even the humans' best tactics might not be enough to break through. They had to act fast. Captain Ryan gave the signal, and the team stormed the facility. Explosions rocked the walls as the humans fought their way through the defenses. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't without casualties, but the humans fought. With everything they had, they destroyed the central command system, throwing the Predator forces into chaos. For the first time, the Predators were without leadership, without direction. The humans had struck a blow that would be felt across the galaxy. As the mission came to a close and the team made their escape, they knew the war was far from over. The Predators were still a powerful enemy, but the turning point had arrived. The balance of power had shifted. Humanity had proven that they could strike at the heart of the Predators' empire, and they would continue to fight until the Predators were no more. The Predators were reeling. They had lost their central command, and their once empire was beginning to fracture. The humans had shown them something they had never expected: strength, resilience, and a fierce determination that no amount of firepower could crush. For the first time in their long history, the apex predators were no longer the hunters. They were the prey. It didn't take long for the predators to realize that their once untouchable empire was now vulnerable. Their forces were scattered, disorganized, and demoralized. The human attacks were relentless, and with each victory, humanity's reputation grew. The predators were losing territory, and their fearsome warships, which had once been symbols of power, were now being outclassed by the humans' tactics and technology. For the first time, the predators found themselves on the defensive. The galaxy, which had once bowed to their might, was now turning against them. Other species, who had lived in fear of the predators for centuries, began to rise up and join the humans in their fight. They saw this as their chance to finally break free from the predators' iron grip. The humans had ignited a spark of hope, and now the galaxy was on the verge of a revolution. As the humans continued their offensive, the predators' leaders held an emergency council. The meeting was held in a dark, cold chamber, far away from the eyes of the galaxy. The remaining high commanders gathered, their faces filled with a mixture of anger and fear. For the first time, they weren't sure they could win. "We have lost the heart of our empire," one of the commanders said, his voice hoarse with frustration. "The humans have broken our command center, and now the galaxy is turning against us." Another commander slammed his fist onto the table. "This is impossible. We are the apex. We are invincible. We cannot be defeated by these weak, fragile creatures." But a quiet voice interrupted. It was the eldest and wisest of the commanders, a figure who had lived for centuries and seen countless battles. He looked at his colleagues with cold, piercing eyes. "You're wrong," he said softly. "We are not invincible. We have grown complacent. We've forgotten what it means to truly fight. The humans have reminded us of that." He paused for a moment, as if considering something deeply. "We can still win, but we must adapt. We must change our ways. We cannot continue to rely on brute force. If we are to survive, we must outthink them." But the damage had already been done. The predators' pride, their arrogance, had been their downfall. They had spent centuries believing they were unstoppable, and now they faced a force that had proven them wrong. The humans' victories were piling up, and their warships were becoming more powerful with each new advancement. It was clear the predators were losing, and no amount of pride could turn the tide. The final blow came when the humans discovered the last remaining predator. Stronghold. It was hidden deep within an ancient asteroid field, a place where the predators believed they were safe from any attack. But they had underestimated the humans once again. Captain Ryan and his fleet had been tracking the predators for weeks, gathering intelligence and making careful preparations. They knew this was it, the final chance to end the war and rid the galaxy of the apex predators forever. They couldn't afford to make a mistake. Every move had to be perfect. The attack began under the cover of darkness, just as the predators had done to their enemies so many times before. The human ships, smaller but more agile, darted through the asteroid field, evading the predators' defenses. The predators, who had once dominated in space battles, were caught off guard. The humans had learned to fight in ways the predators couldn't predict. They had become masters of strategy, using surprise and clever tactics to outmaneuver their once mighty enemy. The battle was fierce. Predator ships exploded in a blinding flash as human fighters moved in with precision strikes, targeting weak points in the predators' armor. The predators fought back with all their strength, but they were too slow, too predictable. The humans had outsmarted them at every turn. The final predator warship, the last of their fleet, was destroyed in a fiery explosion, leaving nothing but debris and silence in its wake. As the dust settled, the humans knew they had won. The apex predators, who had ruled the galaxy for centuries, were no more. Their empire had crumbled, their pride shattered. The galaxy was free, but the cost had been high. The war had been brutal, and many lives had been lost. But humanity had proven something greater than survival. They had shown that no species, no matter how powerful, could remain unbeatable forever. In the wake of their victory, the humans didn't celebrate. They mourned their fallen comrades and honored their sacrifices. They had destroyed the predators, but they knew this victory was about more than just winning a war. It was about showing the galaxy that there was always hope, that no matter how impossible the odds seemed, humanity would never give up. They had faced the most powerful force in the galaxy, and they had won. The fall of the apex predators was the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history, one where humanity would not only survive, but thrive. The humans had proven their place in the stars, and the galaxy would never forget their victory. The war was over. The once mighty apex predators, whose names had struck fear into the hearts of every species across the galaxy, were no more. Their empire had crumbled, their forces shattered. But even with their defeat, the galaxy was still far from peaceful. The humans, who had been thrust into the heart of the war, knew that the battle for survival was not yet fully won. Though the predators had been beaten, their remnants remained scattered across the galaxy, hiding in the dark corners of space. Many of them were defeated, their once proud warships now floating wrecks, their warriors too few to wage any further campaigns. But there were still pockets of resistance, rogue factions that refused to surrender, bent on revenge and determined to reclaim their lost dominance. Captain Ryan and his crew had done the impossible. They had taken down the apex predators. But now, the humans faced a new challenge, ensuring that the predators would never rise again. They couldn't afford to leave any threat lingering. The final battle was at hand, and this time the humans were prepared to finish what they had started. The final predator stronghold was located on a distant moon, far beyond the reach of most space fleets. It was here that the last of the predators had gathered, determined to make one last stand. They knew their end was near, but they had not given up. They would fight to the bitter end, holding on to the last shreds of their empire. But the humans knew this battle would be different. They had learned from every previous encounter, every fight, and every loss. This time, they wouldn't just strike a blow. They would make sure the predators could never threaten the galaxy again. The humans gathered their forces, prepared for the final assault. The fleet, now much stronger and more advanced than ever before, was ready. Captain Ryan had been leading humanity through the darkest hours of the war, and now he stood at the helm of the largest human fleet ever assembled. His crew, once small and inexperienced, had grown into a skilled and battle-hardened team, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the fleet approached the Predator stronghold, the tension was palpable. This was at the moment that would decide the fate of the galaxy. The human ships moved in formation, carefully calculated to strike at the Predator's weak points while avoiding their heavily fortified defenses. The Predators, having expected a direct assault, had built elaborate traps and strongholds, but the humans were ready for anything. The battle began with a deafening roar as the human fleet fired its first salvo, unleashing a barrage of weapons that shattered the Predator's defenses. The Predator warships retaliated fiercely, their weapons blazing across the void of space. Explosions lit up the dark sky, and the air crackled with energy as both sides exchanged devastating blows. But the humans had an advantage. They had the element of surprise, and they had learned from their past encounters. The Predators, though powerful, were predictable. The humans used their superior tactics, dodging and weaving through the Predator's defenses, targeting weak points and striking quickly before retreating to regroup. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Predator forces were no match for the human fleet. Despite their strength, they were scattered and disorganized. The human strategy was flawless, and they systematically dismantled the Predator's defense systems. Every Predator ship that fell was another step toward victory, another step closer to ending the war once and for all. But the final confrontation was still ahead. The Predator's last line of defense was the command shipper, massive, fortress-like vessel that housed their remaining leaders. This was the heart of the Predator forces, and if it fell, the war would truly be over. Captain Ryan led a small team of elite soldiers in a daring assault on the command ship. The team boarded a stealth ship and infiltrated the Predator vessel, sneaking past their final defenses. As they entered the heart of the enemy ship, they were met with fierce resistance, but they pushed forward, determined to finish the job. The Predators fought with everything they had, but they were losing. The humans' assault was relentless. With every room they cleared, the Predator forces grew weaker, and the human victory grew nearer. Finally, Captain Ryan and his team reached the control room, where the last of the Predator commanders awaited. The room was filled with flashing lights and the hum of machinery. The Predator leader, an imposing figure, stood at the center of the room, ready to fight to the death. "You think you've won?" the Predator leader snarled, his eyes glowing with rage. "You may have defeated us, but you will never erase our legacy." Captain Ryan didn't flinch. "Your legacy is one of fear and destruction," he said firmly, "and it ends today." With one final strike, the humans destroyed the central control system of the Predator ship. The ship exploded in a massive burst of energy, sending shockwaves throughout the battlefield. The remaining Predators, now leaderless and without direction, were scattered and crushed by the overwhelming force of the human fleet. As the smoke cleared, it became clear the war was over. The Predators were no more. Humanity had emerged victorious, not just surviving, but conquering. The galaxy, once ruled by fear, was now free on the aftermath of the battle. The humans didn't celebrate with explosions of joy. They mourned the loss of their comrades, those who had sacrificed their lives for this victory. The cost had been high, but it had been worth it. The Predators, who had once believed they were the apex of all life, had been defeated by the very species they had deemed inferior. Humanity had proven that they could rise above any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. The galaxy was forever changed. The humans had not only survived, but they had proven that they could thrive. Their place in the stars was secure, and their victory would be remembered for generations to come. The predators had fallen, and humanity had taken their place among the stars.